Hey, what's up, everybody? It is the common sense lifestyle and perspective. That's right. So, just talking about things that are of common sense, because that's the lifestyle that we should be really living. But a lot of times, common sense ain't so common. And so, yesterday I talked about Disney and being woke and can they wake up from that. And you can see that there are places that are starting to kind of wake up a little bit from it, right? And some haven't learned their lesson about what it is about being woke and DEI and all this other stuff that they're incorporating when they should just really look at what's made them money throughout all this time and not try to reach for something that they think has potential but really don't know. And right now, as you see failure after failure after failure of being woke and incorporating DEI and all that stuff and going after that sort of, if you want to call it a market, um, there's places that are kind of just reversing their strategies. And that's not such a bad thing. I think if you were trying to save a company, save face, you better revert back to what you had going that was making money. All right, so let's talk about it here. All right, so just to piggyback off of yesterday, Harley Davidson dumps DEI. All right, so I read this yesterday, and I was actually going to talk about this yesterday, but I went ahead and talked about Disney instead, as I've been wanting to talk about Disney for a while. All right, so here's Harley Davidson. All right, here's a little funny tidbit. I did um, a long research paper in college, and it's in the business classes. So I had to do a research paper on, you know, I chose a topic diving into Indian motorcycle. If you guys know what Indian motorcycle is, and their competition was Harley Davidson. So I covered that. So I kind of know a little bit about the whole motorcycle industry when it comes to this sort of this sort of type of motorcycle, as I covered Indian motorcycle before. But it's fascinating because Harley Davidson has a heritage of the history of its motorcycles, the style, the grace, the clientele that they have instilled for all these years, right? And it's kind of like how, for example, right, you look at Budweiser, the company Anheuser-Busch, and Bud Light for all these years had this sort of particular strategy on how they market and how they go about things in general, right? All of a sudden, it just takes one person to literally just fuck everything up, right? That's what happened with Budweiser or Bud Light, I guess you could say, in that particular marketing division when they hired some chick that don't know shit about the beer industry, only just thought about, you know, when it came to just marketing, but didn't really look at the history, the heritage, and all that stuff that what made Bud Light the way it was, that a powerhouse of a beer, the number one beer at the time, right? And so if the strategies have worked, number one beer domestically, why would you want to mess up that, right? No, because you wanted to be woke. You wanted to be going after a different clientele. Why? To create awareness? Well, I mean, what was the strategy for? To tap into an untapped market? Or, I mean, there wasn't any indication that was going to be a huge market because you're talking about, in essence, when you're looking at woke market, which is pretty much LGBT, LGBTQ, LGBTQ, and if you want to go into the DEI direction, other races and genders and all that stuff, that market is not even close to being big as, say, like a male-based market, right? Because when you look at beer, it's a predominantly based male-based market. When you look at motorcycles with Harley Davidson, it's a male-based market. So that's what happened with Harley Davidson, right? They went with a CEO in 2020 that really try to inject something into it that shouldn't have, right? In terms of the way it was trying to go in this sort of DEI woke direction. And all it did was messed up something that, it was kind of on a downward trend because you were looking at COVID times. People are not spending money, obviously, because it's tough times. And Harley Davidson's more of a hobby-based motorcycle business. It is a lifestyle as well for some people, but at the same time, it's kind of a hobby-based sort of business as well. Uh, but sales were down, and so when they brought in the CEO, rather than try to find ways to, maybe jumpstart it in a particular way, not a woke way, but that was the strategy they went with. And now it's quote unquote, when you look at motorcycles, it backfired, right? So it's just funny how that is. And it was just fascinating that they went ahead and now they dumped DEI, all right? Because, I just don't get, I don't get why they, when companies try to go in this woke direction, why? You know what I'm saying? Because what are they trying to go for when it comes to bikers and all that and trying to go in this sort of DEI direction, right? Like, what are you trying to go after? Like, do you truly think you're going to get all these people to buy in to Harley Davidson? All right. Then you're already going to insult the fan base for bringing aboard this whole DEI stuff that really is insulting to the hardcore Harley Davidson fan. And if Harley Davidson were alive, right, the original people that created Harley Davidson, there's no way they would have allowed that into this sort of bike culture, right? And it's not to bang on LGBTQ or bang on any sort of gender, or if you want to say, whatever you believe in, right? It's not to insult them or anything, but Harley Davidson's a certain clientele of particular people, because of its image, what it instills upon classically, and to just change things up, it just really erodes and takes away everything that it's built upon, and so that's what killed the business even further. And after 3 or 4 years of this, because I know the CEO came in like in 2020 when everything went woke, right? Literally everything went woke in 2020. It's just too bad that things had to happen that way. And but at the same time, they woke up, in essence, right? They woke up from being woke, and realized, you know what? I think we made a mistake. Maybe we got to do better in terms of business, right? Because the things that they were doing was pretty insulting. When you look at, I've read an article. I don't know if I can find that article, but they were doing events that were unlikely of what Harley Davidson historically would ever do, because it was so unlike Harley Davidson, where they were doing like these sort of pride events and things like that, holding pride events. It's one thing to be at a pride event, just to have a presence, but to hold a pride event that really digs into the core of what Harley Davidson never really was. And so, to me, and then they changed the logo to really. I don't know if it was just to change the image of what it was, but it really took the life out of Harley Davidson. And so, it's just one of those things that, it's just something that you got to go back to the drawing board and be like, you know what? We got to get back to what we were. And that's what Harley Davidson, decided to do. Because look at that. I mean, they have a long history, but what they were doing was insulting, like I said, to the core of the people that really, really had their heart in this hobby, in this business, in the lifestyle, in the name, right? That you're going to drive people away. Like I've been saying all along, you don't need to shove, all this down people's throats, right? When it comes to what people are, whether it's culturally, whether it's gender, right? It takes people just will rather just be around, and if you're around it long enough, you tend to accept what's around you, right? Because that's how America is, believe it or not, right? But if you're forcing people to do things that maybe they don't necessarily want to do or necessarily believe in, it actually pushes people away. And that's what my message was about Disney yesterday. It pushes people away. Like I said, I used to like going to Disney. And I'm not a fanatic too, when it comes to Disney and all that. I was never a fanatic. I went to Disneyland because, when I was in other countries, like in Japan and Hong Kong, for example, I went there because, well, I lived in Japan for a little bit when my dad was in the Navy. I went to Hong Kong on a visit, and I had happened to be there when they first opened up in Hong Kong. And then in the U.S., I went to Disneyland as I was growing up, because I had a friend that worked at Disney corporate that I got the hookup. So, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go. And then, like I said, my last time I went was around 2014. And from there, that's when things started to change anyways, that I didn't have the urge to be like, oh, I'm going to go back to Disney and all that. And at the same time, when you started seeing all the things that were going on at Disney, like with the stuff they were doing in the name of DEI and being woke, it's like, why would you want to even go at all, Like, that's just how it is. I mean, so obviously, to me, the line "go woke, go broke" is a legitimate line, and it's serving true, because in the past year, you're looking at places that have walked back from being woke because they are essentially going broke, right? Target, all right, for example, got a lot of backlash for the type of stuff they were selling for being on this woke display in the front of the store that really no one really cared about in the end, in the grand scheme of things. And so they had a lot of backlash too because of the types of stuff they were selling. So when it had happened this year, when it came to Pride, they allowed Target to be holding Pride items optionally. They gave the store an option whether you want to carry the line or not. If you don't have to, and that's nothing wrong with that. I think that's fine because it's a store by store thing. Maybe it's because it's location, and it won't serve for every location. So I would rather go with, if I'm in a location that really doesn't, it's not necessary to have that sort of thing, then I'm not going to carry the line. So they walked back on this whole DEI stuff, right? Disney starting to kind of break out of their element a little bit. R-rated movie now with Deadpool, because it's very unusual at Disney to do R-rated stuff. Cool. Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, still suffering the repercussions of going woke because they're going broke. Bud Light sales have remained down. Like, the trend has always been going down, believe it or not, because I worked in the business for a long time too, so I know, right? I got out of that business a long time ago, but the trends have been going down, even though they remain the number one selling beer domestically. The trends have remained continue to go down. It's just because people are losing interest in domestic beers. It's a classic beer. People are interested in import beers, micro brew beers. So, for example, microbrews would be these sort of pop-up microbreweries. So in California, for example, you have Sierra Nevada, you have home of the 805 down in San Luis Obispo. I can't think of the name of that beer right now, but 805. They have like Lagunitas, right? So you have all these different microbrews that one serves the community and serves the county, serves the where it represents, right? And they usually have a special blend, a special batch of how they make their beers. So it makes it a unique taste, unique experience, and all that stuff. Those have always been on the rise, along with import beers. What kept Bud Light afloat was going with the trends of what people like, right? Seltzer-based beers, like White Claw, for example, have become very popular, which is kind of, like Smirnoff, Smirnoff Ice and all that, or Mike's Hard Lemonade. Well, seltzer was a big, seller last couple years, and I think White Claw kind of paved the way for that in terms of just coming out of nowhere with a boost of sales, and everybody else follows suit with their own version, right? That Bud Light came out with their own version, so that's kept it afloat. They're usually kind of the first in the trends of putting their name on something, right? Like when back then when they came out with the cheladas, which is like the tomato and hot sauce infused into the Bud Light. So they call it a chelada beer. You name it. They've always kind of done stuff with Bud Light Lime, stuff like that. Bud Light Platinum. So they've done all kinds of things to try to keep Bud Light relevant and to help increase the sales of Bud Light as a whole. All right, that's always been kind of the strategy since Bud Light was still domestically a popular beer. And so right now they're still suffering the repercussions of going woke with having a transgender do their advertising campaigns, right, or represent the advertising campaigns they were doing, right, who really didn't care for the beer, who only just acted the part, but we know isn't really a Bud Light drinker. And it really, insulted the drinkers, the audience alone, and the base of what Bud Light was about. That was a slap in the face, right? So now going back to this, Harley Davidson, right? Um, they went woke, and they're going broke, I guess, because sales were down, and it's gotten worse. So they're bleeding. So what do you do when you're bleeding? You gotta stop, right? And so there's ways to go about things if you're trying to go after a segment, right, without really insulting your base, right? So, and I think the voices that are saying it have finally been heard. That Harley Davidson says, all right, we got to do something about this because, there's so much backlash that, all right, you know what, we better fix our ways or else we're going to lose everybody. Because that's the risk. You're going to lose everybody, right? And so Bud Light's learning that, right? And Harley Davidson is in that predicament now. So the question is, can they bounce back? Yeah, they can bounce back. So, and that's the start right here. Bouncing back by ditching DEI, right? As what the headline says, they're ditching DEI, they're dumping DEI. And so they want to go back to what brought them to the dance, right? Because, that sometimes that's all you got to do. It's just kind of reinvent what brought the magic in the first place, right? And you'd be surprised that sometimes a wake-up call like this, and you go back to something that previously worked, all of a sudden works, right? It's crazy how that is. But anyhow, I just wanted to bring that to attention since this made the news, and plus I talked about Disney anyways because they were kind of in that sort of same predicament. That, we don't need to be forced down our throats again, as I reiterate, that all this stuff about being woke and DEI and all that, because when you look at things of DEI nature, right, especially what's running, whether it's the government, the country, whatever it may be, right, a lot of times DEI is not the best practice because when you really look at it, right, when you look at DEI, is it really the best practice? Because a lot of times it isn't, because they're typically, for example, not as qualified as one could be, but in the name of DEI, you just took that person anyways because it looks good. Well, how about common sense says because the person's qualified, they have the credentials, they have the pedigree, they have the background that fulfills it, right? I mean, that's common sense, that maybe they would be a better person to run the situation, run the company, run the marketing, whatever it is that you're trying to fill that position for, run the government, right? So that's something to really think about because that's all it really takes, and it's a better way to go than to bring on someone that never done it before, but only in the name of DEI. That's the only reason why you brought him in, or her, or it, if you want to go that way. And then when you start to see, and do you notice that in all these sort of DEI situations, hires, that man, they've totally mismanaged on nearly all fronts. All right, let's throw in some mayors' names out there. DEI hires, all right. We'll even say Kamala Harris DEI hire. What has she really done? What has she really done to help improve our lives? Nothing. But yet, you guys are making her that much closer to being president. You look at the mayors that are running the cities. All right. Let's see. DEI hires. See, Chicago mayor, DEI hire. Terrible misrun city. LA mayor, misrun city. San Francisco mayor, misrun city. Oakland mayor, misrun city. Shit, you could even throw New York DEI hire, misrun city. And then when you look at why they misrun, you could tell there's so much corruption involved in it, and that's part of why it's misran. But this is all a different story, though. My whole point is that DEI is terrible for business. All right, and people are learning that now. Companies are learning that now. Not every one of them has woken up from being woke yet, but they're starting to come around. All right, as we're seeing right now, as we look at Disney maybe waking up. They're saying they are, but not quite there yet. Harley Davidson obviously woke up now from DEI. And all these cities that brought in DEI mayors are slowly being recalled or being voted out. So maybe we'll take a look at another DEI. We'll make another DEI content video, and we'll look at businesses that have walked back and away from DEI. We'll take a look at that more, probably in another episode. I don't know if it'll be the next one or down the road, but it's something to be looked at. It's something that truly shows that it's not working, and truly shows that it's a money-losing venture. And honestly, they should be fired, right? Fire the Bud Light lady. What marketing person? I think she was fired. Harley Davidson CEO, fired. Dump him. And the list goes on. Any one of these people that's held a leadership position that try to instill DEI as part of the business strategy, and probably about, if not all, backfired. Shit, Bob Iger, Disney, fire him. They should all be fired, because none of them has brought anything to the bottom line in any of these businesses but failure and loss of money, like hemorrhaging money. That should be something to be looked at. But anyhow, that's the latest here I wanted to bring upon you guys, because, here we go. That's another one. All right? So maybe DEI is not what it's cracked up to be. All right? I didn't fall for that shit. And I've been acceptance of various walks of life for years, because that's just the person I am. I don't need it to be forced down my throat. I don't need it to be forced in my face. If I really wanted to go that badly to see it, to be in it, then I'll just go there. But why? Do I need it to be in my face 24/7, forced upon me, when it shouldn't be a big deal? It's just another person in society. But anyhow, that's enough of that. I'm not going to go any more on this. But yeah, let's take a look at this. And am I right? Is DEI a bad business strategy? I think it is. And businesses are waking up from woke. Funny how that is. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. And subscribe. And hit the bell icon. And we could continue conversations. Or if you got something to talk about, let me know what you want to talk about. And other than that, let me see here. I also have actually a link tree if you like mashed up music as well. I also got crypto channels if you like crypto. All right, I'll see you in the next one.